This episode of the Beauty by AVIC podcast is brought to you by the Aesthetic and Beauty Industry Council. Hello and welcome to the Beauty by AVIC podcast, your online support community for the aesthetic and beauty industry. Here, we are strengthening and unifying the industry through representation, innovation, and education. This is a platform created and dedicated to the aesthetic and beauty industry, valuing unity and advancement. We serve to represent, support, and inspire you by connecting you with industry experts, expanding your knowledge through educational pieces, and bringing you the latest industry news. This is Beauty by AVIC. I'm your host, Stephanie Miller, and today's guest is Candice Heskey from the Australasian College of Health and Wellness. Candice is a qualified dermal clinician and nutritionist with extensive experience in the health and wellness industry, specialising in advanced treatment modalities and skin therapies. Beyond a deep practical and theoretical knowledge of skin conditions and their treatment, Candice also has experience in the management of multiple cosmetic and laser clinics. Through her experience, Candice has recognised the need for qualifications within our industry. This passion and a strong focus on maintaining standards and integrity, along with the implementation of evidence-based practice in skin and health management, led Candice to join the Australasian College of Health and Wellness. In her role as Executive Director and Head of School, Candice has been heavily involved in the launch and management of ACHW, as well as the coordination and development of its higher education programs. Here to discuss the education challenges in our industry, from the Australasian College of Health and Wellness, today we welcome Candice Heskey. Welcome to the podcast, Candice. It's so lovely to have you.
Thanks, Steph. Thanks for having me here.
Well, we've got an exciting episode today. We're talking all things education. But before we start, we have that very famous question that we ask all of our guests, and that is, Candice, how did you enter into the professional beauty industry?
Yeah, thank you. I'll give you a little bit of a background about myself. So I entered through beauty. So I first did my diploma. It was an area I was always interested in, but didn't have any experience at all in any area. And then did my diploma of beauty therapy. I did like kind of where it was going, but then I realized I wanted to get more into the science of the skin and go a bit deeper. And really continue on with really understanding everything to do with the skin and get into a more intensive kind of treatments and fixing skin issues. So I went on to do my Bachelor of Dermal Sciences. Whilst doing that, I worked in laser and skin clinics, went into management of the clinics, working alongside doctors and nurses, and then got into education. I loved kind of the training aspect when being a manager in a clinic, and then really went into education and actually providing education for qualifications in the industry. And then from there, I really wanted to expand even further. So I went further into nutrition and did my Masters of Nutrition and continued working in education with a bit of clinic, still a bit of hands-on in clinic every now and then, but really looking at combining nutrition with skin and working at the body as a whole rather than just looking at the surface. So really looking at what's happening inside, how we can complement what we're doing on the outside of the skin and, trying to fix conditions and also combined with nutrition. And then I've stayed in the education kind of realm because I'm so passionate about this industry and people being qualified and really knowing what they're talking about, because we can, be really changing people's lives with the types of treatments and things that we're working on. So I'm very passionate about education, and that's where it's got me working for ACHW.
And now you're actually the Executive Director of ACHW, a lofty title, my goodness. Can you tell us more about this exceptional educational institute and also your role within it?
Yeah, thank you. I started with ACHW about 5.5 years ago. We the kind of umbrella company that ACHW is part of, acquired the business about that time ago, and I realistically was their first staff member, started getting things operating from scratch, and really starting to get some students on board and growing from there. So I started just as a kind of course coordinator and built up to a head of school role. We grew quite dramatically in terms of the students doing our degrees, and then now I'm the executive director. So it's been a really great journey for me. I'm so passionate about the brand and what we offer. And to give you a bit of a background about that, we are a higher education provider. So we do have 2 degrees in dermal science and clinical aesthetics. And it's really, I did my degree in dermal sciences, and it is an area that I'm really passionate about having that higher education learning and experience. And then we also have undergraduate certificates as well, and they are still degree level units. So they're basically little stepping stones into the degree. They're made up of 4 units of the degree. So it helps get students qualified in specialised areas within a 3 to 6 month period, but then still be able to continue on to the degree. So we are very passionate about just getting the standard in industry raised and really wanting people to know what they're talking about when they work in this industry. You see a lot of kind of horror stories and things that come out in the news. It's so important that people know what they're talking about when they're doing these kind of treatments.
Oh, absolutely, Candice. I couldn't agree with you more. Can you actually tell us a little bit about the scope and role of a dermal clinician as opposed to other roles within the industry, such as a beauty therapist?
Yeah, definitely. So dermal clinicians, when you've got this level of training, which is technically a dermal clinician has completed a bachelor in the area. So there's 2 other providers that have a bachelor degree in this area alongside ACHW, and it means you've done a 3 or 4 year degree in the area. So your knowledge is extensive in comparison to a shorter diploma or a certificate in the area. You're also not, as a dermal clinician, you're not just focusing on the top of the skin and, the very superficial layers of you're looking much deeper into the skin, and you're also combining that with internal, what's happening inside the body, and really understanding the science behind things. Dermal clinicians also are looking into skin management. So not just little kind of superficial beauty type improvements to the skin, but really looking into skin disorders, skin issues that are ongoing, such as your acne, eczema, things that people struggle with constantly, and looking at the management and kind of the health of the skin in a much deeper way than what you would do if you had just been in the beauty industry, which is also great that beauty's more about the pampering and the nice side of treatments. But as a dermal clinician, you're getting a bit deeper, understanding what's occurring, why it's occurring, and actually how to improve it long term.
And speaking of education in the industry, there are many avenues for training, and one of those avenues that has seen a big explosion within the last 10 years is manufacturers actually providing training with their devices. And it's starting to become a sort of a standard in the industry that when people buy a device, that's what they think that their training should be with the manufacturers of the training devices. What do you think the scope of their responsibility is to facilitate that training?
Yeah, look, this is something I'm quite passionate about as well. And I do tell our students and our potential students, certainly a device manufacturer can train you on their machine for sure. However, that's just some black and white training that's teaching you the steps of a machine, treating every client, putting every client into a box and treating them exactly the same. The thing that you want to understand is you never want to, first of all, only understand one machine, because when you work in different clinics, you'll use many different machines. You'll see so many different clients and they don't all go into a specific box. You really need to understand the science behind what you're doing. Before you even look at a machine, you want to understand exactly what's happening under the skin, exactly why that client's skin is the way it is. Then you can adapt your treatment to them regardless of what machine you're using. There's certainly a place for device manufacturers to show you their machine, give you the rundown, show you their settings, definitely. However, you want to be able to start with that and then adapt based on your clients and what you actually know based on the science that you know, which is so much more than what a device manufacturer can train you in. And you need to be able to adapt during a treatment as well. So a device manufacturer can tell you to use this setting on this skin type and you use it. However, clients react differently all the time, regardless of things. There's so many external and internal factors that can change the way a client responds to a particular treatment. And if you're well trained and you really understand what you're doing, you can adapt during the treatment, and no kind of machine can just teach you that. You really need to understand the science behind what you're doing.
Agreed, absolutely. And then there's another factor, which is the hands-on training that you receive. Do you think there's enough hands-on training in general from training providers for students entering into the industry and also using high-powered devices and treatment modalities?
I think this is a bit of a combination here, and I think sometimes we as an industry can think too much on hands-on training. However, it's a combination of the theory training and understanding the theory before even doing hands-on and then doing the hands-on training. So sometimes people forget the theory aspect and think it's only all about practical. And again, that kind of falls into just learning machines and what to use, and you kind of fall into that pattern of only following certain steps. The most important thing is to learn all of the theory and the science behind what you're doing and how the skin and the body operates, then do your hands-on training and work out how to adapt. So there's a bit of combination there. I think sometimes there's definitely not enough training in both areas. And I think that's an issue that we do have in industry. And it's certainly something that ACHW is passionate about in terms of getting people qualified and having the right training. But with an industry that is unregulated, you will see different variations of how much training someone has had, and maybe they've got a lot of hands-on but no theory, and vice versa, all theory and no hands-on. So definitely room for improvement as an industry in both of those areas.
And how do you handle that within ACHW, that delicate balance between the two?
Well, with ACHW, because we are degree level qualifications and even our certificates are still using our degree units, the students will study all of the theory and the science components online and have that real understanding of everything that's happening prior to going to their practical face-to-face hands-on training. And it means that they already know the skin and the science before just learning any particular machine. And I think that's really important. That way, when they're actually seeing clients and treating clients, they've got that knowledge to back it up, and that's where they learn to adapt the theory that they've learned into actually the treatments that they're doing and adapting them for the clients as well.
The Aesthetic and Beauty Industry Council is Australia's peak industry body, representing the collective professional beauty and aesthetic, salon, clinic and spa community. Created for the industry, by the industry, our council is a collaboration of industry leaders who bring their commitment and specialised skills to raise industry standards, guide regulation and be a strong voice to government. At ABIC, our purpose is to provide an accessible and supportive organisation for the betterment of the professional beauty and aesthetic field, to enhance working practices and promote unity across the various sectors of the industry. ABIC's mission also includes being a trusted source of referral, education and guidance for clients of the beauty and aesthetic profession. ABIC is here to support our members through an extensive offering, including hundreds of valuable resources, HR support and industry expert facilitators to ensure your continued growth and success. Join us today and together let's safeguard the future of the beauty and aesthetic industry. Find us at www.theabic.org.au. At ABIC, we are here for you.
We're just really passionate about them really understanding the science behind what they're doing. So it is a much higher level of education that we provide.
No, that's so wonderful to hear. Do you actually facilitate the practical part of their training at ACHW, or do you facilitate that with placements?
No, we do all the facilitation as well. So all of the theory as well as their in-clinic facilitation with our facilitators that take them through the unit, and then they see clients, they practice on each other. They have a lot of experience putting all of that theory into practice.
How many hours do you think they'd get in practical hands-on training?
It's broken down per treatment modality, and usually it's about 30 hours for specific treatments.
That's so wonderful to hear. I think that special combination between the two is so important. We're seeing the industry move more towards online training, and there definitely is a place for that online. But as you said, both components are needed to be able to have a fully well-rounded student and a really good educational outcome as well. Now let's change direction a little bit. What do you think employers look for when they are seeking to onboard a new graduate?
Employers would be looking for someone that's confident in their learning. So someone that can, answer questions and know what they're talking about and see that they actually have done training. And, employers need to be careful about who they're hiring, because there can be so many adverse effects that can happen if someone is careless. So they're looking for people that understand science, understand what they're doing and how important it is in terms of the care for the client and putting the client's safety first, and also kind of not jumping the gun with things, but also someone that can still be trainable in their own clinic. So you never stop learning in this industry. You will use so many different machines. Technology is advancing all the time. So employers will also be looking for someone with that background knowledge, but still trainable within their specific clinic.
Do you think with the rise of modalities and dermal therapies that employers now are looking for qualified dermal therapists more and more, as opposed to various qualifications within the industry?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in the last few years, the industry has been moving in the right direction in terms of recognizing qualifications and wanting qualified people. There has been so much bad publicity in the past about when treatments go wrong, that as an employer, they do need to be careful, because it's much quicker to get to the media when something goes wrong rather than something goes right. So the need for qualifications and recognition of that is a lot higher now. And also as an employer, it gives them a point of difference. They want to be able to show that the staff that they have are qualified, the clients are in safe hands, and it is a higher standard of a clinic rather than some of these other lower end clinics that just churn through staff, no one's fully trained, and you get the most adverse effects that come out of them.
It's quite an important issue, isn't there? And the other issue is that there's, I suppose, in combination with that, quite a significant skills shortage in the dermal space, but in the beauty space altogether. What do you think are some of the reasons that have actually contributed to the skills shortage, apart from we all know that COVID has had a huge part in that, but even before COVID, we were actually experiencing a skills shortage. It's been exacerbated by COVID, but it was always there. Why do you think the reasons for this are occurring?
Look, I think this industry is always rapidly growing. It's not going anywhere. There's, the need for these kind of treatments and people's interest in having these treatments is so popular and will continue to be. And COVID certainly put a bit of a stop to that for a while, and people, were without work, so needed to start working in other industries and things. But I think almost the industry is growing at such a rapid rate that it's hard to find people that have been trained, fully trained before employing all the time. So it is, I think in general as well, with regulations not being consistent through each state, not everyone has that same kind of passion and need to do the hard work and really understand what they're doing, and taking that extra care in, really realizing how serious some of these skin issues are, and the need to really understand what you're doing to treat them. Without regulation, not everyone will have that same passion to actually get fully qualified in this area, unfortunately.
Absolutely. And you were saying that one of the reasons was the extremely rapid growth in our industry. We are not able to keep up with the demand. There are more and more skin and dermal clinics opening up all around Australia. And I just think trying to find talented and experienced staff to be able to fill those positions is actually challenging. But do you think that part of the reason why this is also occurring is that people don't generally seek at the moment to move into this industry because of that lack of regulation and lack of respect for our industry? Is that something that you think is a contributing factor?
I think there's two sides to that. I think some people, don't, I guess, care for the need for qualifications because you can get into the industry without. However, we are still seeing so much interest and so much, passionate students and potential students that they don't want to work in the industry without any qualifications. They want to know what they're doing, and people that have kind of suffered with certain skin issues themselves or their family, they don't want to just jump in there with no training and be doing this kind of thing. So there's still that passion and drive from people getting into this industry. And I think we'll always just have both sides of that, where there's people that don't see the care, need and just want the quick win getting into the industry. But there is still definitely the passion there from people that want to understand the science behind it. And I think that's where the industry has made some positive steps in recognizing those people that are qualified now, rather than it's much harder to get a job now in a good clinic for sure, without any qualifications at all.
Are you seeing any more of an influx in students interested in dermal therapies within ACHW?
Yeah, absolutely. So now that we've gotten over COVID, and that's, things are getting back to normal and the industry is booming again, there is so much interest there. And I think this area will always hold a lot of interest because, the skin as a whole, it affects so many things when people are dealing with issues and disorders and skin diseases that they have to their whole entire life, I think. And anti-aging as well, that's another kind of area. It's just always going to be booming. So I don't see any slowing down again now.
Wonderful. And tell us a little bit about how you actually see the future of dermal therapy and its place within the aesthetics and beauty industry. Tell us, you can pull out that crystal ball and tell us some insights that you think might happen.
Look, I think there's certain, providers and governing bodies that are going to always push for the further need for regulations and further recognition for dermal clinicians. And I think whilst that's a long process, we're taking the right steps as an industry and these, particular bodies that are involved to get dermal therapies, dermal clinicians recognized and, see them as health providers that need qualifications and are recognized because of their qualifications. So there's definitely a big push there. We'll continue to push in that direction. We have, industry bodies that have done a lot of work over the last couple of years, and we'll keep pushing that way as well. And I think soon we will see definitely more awareness around qualifications and what the scope is of dermal clinicians, and seeing the difference in terms of clinics and in terms of what people can treat and what they don't, and actually being recognised as allied health providers.
Oh, it's such a wonderful thing. And, all that hard work is definitely being recognised and being seen. Hopefully will come to fruition very soon. And you're actually a member of ABIC. You've just recently joined as an education member. Welcome. And we are so happy to have you. What made you choose to join ABIC, and why do you feel that it's so important to support the industry in that way?
Look, ABIC, we saw, really having a large industry voice. We are just all about, the industry banding together and working together, not working in these segments and everyone, we're all wanting the same thing. We're all wanting the standard of industry to be higher and for people to be recognized that do the training. So I really saw that ABIC was heading in that direction, a large industry voice, which we love, and combining lots of different industries. So not just education, not just this kind of standalone clinic owners, like a lot of industry voices are a part of ABIC, and that's something we're really passionate about. We love kind of collaboration and working together.
Absolutely. And there's so much work to be done. And we're so happy that the education providers such as yourself and so many others, along with all different, as you said, segments of the industry have joined together to make that a reality. We have a lot of work to do in so many areas, and one of them is unifying the industry, but one of them is also raising the standards of education and hopefully looking after self-regulation. I think that nationally and internationally, we're seeing the same problems arise in the industry because our industry is growing so rapidly and changing so fast that it is hard for government to keep up, trying to get the regulations out for education frameworks to be able to facilitate the different types of growth happening there. So I think it's really important that we have such dedicated members such as yourself that are, willing to help make that change. So thank you so much. And thank you so much for coming on our podcast today. What an interesting discussion. And hopefully we'll have you back again to talk more in depth about industry regulation when we start to go for that. So thank you so much for coming on today.
You're welcome. It was great to be here and I look forward to chatting again in future.
You've reached the end of another episode of the Beauté by ABIC podcast, your online support community for the aesthetic and beauty industry. Thank you for listening, and until next time, stay connected.